Boker Tov. Today's daf is daf Mem Gimel in Baba Basra. As we learn for Achinu Kol Beis Yisrael and Sul Matzar Shivya, please put your thinking caps on. This is going to be a tough one. All right, now on yesterday's daf, just to review, on yesterday's daf we had a sheet of Shmuel. Shmuel disagreed with his father and Levi. And Shmuel said that shutfin partners can have a chazaka one against the other. They were partners, and all of a sudden, one guy took over the whole thing. He was there for 3 years. That's a chazaka. Didn't he say that shutfin are allowed to go in, and it's not exactly chazaka? Well, it depends on the circumstance. If let's say every year they shared the fruits, and then 1 year this guy went for 3 years straight, he took all the fruits. That shows a chazaka because the other partner should have complained. That's one idea we discussed yesterday. The shutfin have a chazaka. Then he also said, that's going to be today's topic, or half of today's topic. One of the two topics, that shutfin can testify against one another, or on behalf of one another, not against one another. Against, maybe not so bad, right? There's always fights. People always testify about it, right? Talking about, can they testify on behalf of one another? If, let's say, we'll call now for a simple case, Reuben and Shimon are partners, and Reuben, and they own a field. Now, somebody questions Shimon's ownership, or questions the ownership of the field. Can Reuben testify on Shimon's behalf? Shmuel says he could. Isn't he an interested party? After all, he's not impartial. It's half his too. If the field's taken away, Reuben's also going to lose. So what does Shmuel mean when he says that shutfin can testify on behalf of one another? So that's what the Gemara is going to deal with right now. And the Daf Mem Gimel, from the bottom of Mem Beis and Beis. So Eden Zel Zeh. Eden Zel Lizeh. Not Al Zeh, but Eden Zel Zeh. Reuben can testify on behalf of Shimon. Now, why is this? It's Gemara Mai. No Gembe Dusening. Isn't he in this party? If Reuben and Shimon both own the field together, and someone comes to question and say, hey, Shimon, you don't own this field. It belongs to this protester, this claimant. We'll call him a claimant. The claimant says the field belongs to him. So Reuben can testify on Shimon's behalf, but then Reuben's really testifying for himself too, because they're partners in it. So what's going on? So Gemara Hachamai Skin at the top line of Mem Gimel. Hachamai Skin at the Gospel Din Bar mainly outside of Zoo. Reuben withdrew his ownership from this field, so he's no longer an interested party. So he doesn't own it anymore. So he's just, now. Aren't you worried about a knunya? Maybe there's some sort of a conspiracy that he withdrew and then later on he'll get it back. All right, we'll see. But apparently we're not worried about that. The first answer to the Gemara is he withdrew his ownership. Before he withdrew it before. Now he's withdrawn. And so he can testify on behalf of Shimon that the field belongs to Shimon. Says the Gemara, saying I withdraw doesn't mean anything. If I own a house and I say I withdraw, what does that mean? That doesn't. You have to sell it to somebody, give it to somebody. He says, Gemara, what if he wrote Dinu Dvarim? I have no judgment and no words on this field. Nothing. I have nothing to do with this field. But I've got nothing to do with this field. I got no business here. My hands are withdrawn from it. That's not the way you transfer ownership. You could transfer ownership by death, by bequeathing it to somebody, by giving it to somebody, by selling it to somebody. But you can't withdraw ownership just for saying I withdraw. That doesn't work. If he makes it hefker, that's hefker, but he didn't make it hefker. He said, my hands are withdrawn from it. That's not hefker. Hefker has to be in front of 3 people that he has to actually be mafker the whole thing. Right? So he made a kinyan. Reuben sold his share to Shimon. Let's assume Reuben and Shimon were equal shares in the field. And now Reuben sold his field to Shimon. Okay. And therefore, apparently he's impartial now, right? But he's not so impartial. Why? So what if he made a kinyan and Shimon acquired it legitimately from him? We're going to see that this is a case where he would rather leave it in Shimon's possession. In other words, he's an interested party. Why? Because Reuben had prior, a long time ago, borrowed some money, borrowed $1,000 from somebody, and he hasn't paid it back yet. Now, subsequently, he got that field. Now he sold his share in the field to Shimon, right? Sold his share in the field to Shimon. But Reuben would like the field to stay in Shimon's hands, right? We're talking about Reuben testifying on behalf of Shimon if some claimant says that it belongs to him. He would like it to be there. Why? Because this way, when Reuben's own creditor comes, he'll have what to collect from. Because even though Reuben's no longer physically the owner, but that field belonged to him subsequent to his loan. And therefore, his own creditor has a prior lien on that loan. You can't say, I had a field. The guy was going to come and take my field because I owed him money, so I sold the field. Shimon had, that had nothing to do with it. Shimon could have protected himself originally when they got the field and when they bought it together and said, look, if you have any outstanding liens, I would have taken. Shimon could have done that, but he didn't. Here we're just talking about Reuben and Shimon bought a field together. But before that, Reuben owed $1,000 to somebody. Now, when the guy comes for the $1,000, Reuben doesn't have the field anymore, but he would like it to remain in Shimon's hands because that was the field that would be that this way the money that the field will be available for his own creditor to collect from. So he's not impartial. So why do you say over here? Why again? Shmuel said that let's call it a former partner can testify on behalf of his former partner because he's not an interested party. He's impartial. Why is he impartial? He's not impartial. He wants that if the field is taken away by some claimant, then Reuben's creditor will have nothing to take because it doesn't belong to either one of them. Here he's an interested party. He wants to say that it belongs to Shimon, so that when his own creditor comes, his creditor will have what to collect from. He doesn't want to be like a scoundrel who doesn't pay back his loans. Says the Omer Rabban Bar Shmuel B'Shmeidish. We're going to have this again tomorrow. Even if you sell your field to somebody without any guarantee, I sell you the field and I say, you know what? If it's taken away from you, too bad. Even without a chrayas, certainly with a chrayas, but even without a chrayas, he can't testify on that. In other words, if Reuben now sold the field to Shimon, he can't testify that it belongs to Shimon if it comes up afterwards. Because he wants it to be in Shimon's hands, even if the field is subsequently taken away from Shimon by some third party, by a claimant. And there's a question: does it belong to the claimant? Does it belong to Shimon? Reuven, who sold it to Shimon, will want to testify it's in Shimon's hands, so that if Reuben had a prior creditor, he'll have what to collect it from. But if some third party claimant says it's his and it never belonged to Reuben and Shimon at all, the Reuben's creditor will have nothing to collect from. You see, Reuben had borrowed $1,000 years before, and his creditor was going to come out to collect. If the field's taken away from Reuben and Shimon, right, that some other guy says he owned the field, they never owned it at all, there'll be nothing to collect from. So he'd rather have the field available so that it's something to collect from. So you see the same thing of right. So here too, why do you say that the former partner is a disinterested party, that he's impartial? No, he's not impartial. He wants that field. He has a reason why he wants the field to stay in the hands of Shimon, even though he himself is no longer a partial owner in it, so that if he has a creditor, the creditor will want to collect from. He won't be a scoundrel. Oh, no, you know what it's speaking about? When he gave it to Shimon, when he sold his half to Shimon, or he gave it to him, however he gave it to him, he gave it to him with a guarantee. He gave it to him with a guarantee. Now, what kind of a guarantee? It says, if it's a guarantee that if some third party comes and collects it from you, I will guarantee it. So certainly he would want to have it. Why? Because he has outstanding creditors himself. And if somebody else takes it away, or if Reuven sold his half to Shimon, and he said, listen, if my half is taken away from you, I'll guarantee it. So certainly he wants to testify on behalf of Shimon and say that the field belongs to Shimon and not to some third party, because if the field's taken away from Shimon, Reuven will have to pay him. So certainly he's not going to be impartial. He's going to want to say that it belongs to Shimon. Here we're talking about, you know what it means? The same achrayas we talked about before. I'll guarantee you that if my creditor from years ago that I owe $1,000 to comes and takes the field, I'll make good on it. So in a case like that, listen carefully, in a case like that, Reuven, who's going to testify now, he is impartial, because either way he's going to owe the money. Either he's going to owe the money to his creditor, the $1,000 from years before, or if the creditor takes the field, he'll owe the money to Shimon. So therefore, he could testify that it belongs to Shimon on behalf of Shimon, even though you might say, yeah, but then then the creditor can take it, but then he'll owe the money to Shimon. Either way, he'll either owe the money to creditor or owe the money to Shimon. So therefore, he's a disinterested party because either way he owes the money. So by him testifying that it's Shimon's, he's not gaining any advantage. He's not gaining any advantage. Why? Because his creditor may take it away, then he'll have to pay Shimon. And if he doesn't testify that it belongs to Shimon, he doesn't say that, so he'll still owe the money to his original creditor. Either way, he doesn't have any interest. He's not an interested party. And therefore, in a case like that, a former partner can testify on behalf of Shimon. Reuben and Shimon were originally partners, and Reuben gave Shimon his half. So he's a former partner. He can testify that it belongs to Shimon because he is a disinterested party. Why? Because even though he guaranteed Shimon, he says the field's taken away from you, I'll make it good to you, but he also owes money to a creditor. So either way, he's going to have to pay one of them. If the creditor takes it, he'll have to pay Shimon. If the creditor doesn't take it, he'll have to pay the creditor. So therefore, he's a disinterested party, and he can testify. Says the Gemara, even though, so what did you say over here? Why is he, if they're still partners, of course you can't testify that the field belongs to Shimon against a third party who's claiming it, because the field belongs to you too. Obviously, you're an interested party. You're a Nogea B'Davar, right? Because you're a partner in it. Talking about when you removed your partnership, are you giving your half to somebody else? Okay, but even though you did that, are you really considered? Is it considered that you're removed, and we're not worried about a knunya, that maybe you just removed yourself in order to be able to testify, and then later on you'll get it back? By the time you live in 8 years, Sheniknav Sefer Torah Shalan. City, there was a small town. They had one Sefer Torah. The Sefer Torah was stolen. Okay, now they found the Ganav. The Ganav says, no, he bought it. Or some other excuse that it was his from the beginning. It never belonged to them. So it comes up in court. Ain't done but who can judge this case? The judges of that city cannot judge because they're Nogea B'Davar, right? Because they want the Sefer Torah. They only have one Sefer Torah. The Ein Nevi and Rai answers, you can't bring proof either. The people in that city cannot testify on behalf because they're all interested parties, right? They're all Nogea B'Davar. So what can you do? You have to find, you have to, what do? They take the court to some other city, right? Because they change the venue, right? Now, so it says over there, if you say you could just remove yourself from it by giving up your share, let two of the people in the town remove their share, say, we'll remove our share. They'll get paid off or whatever. But let the cases come before a judge. In other words, either two people for the witnesses or the people for the judges, let them remove themselves from the city. If you say you could just remove yourself and then you become a disinterested party, why can't you do that? So Mura says, no, that's different. Shiny Sefer Torah l'shmiya koi. Everybody needs a Sefer Torah. There's only one Sefer Torah, and even though they don't own it, but they have to hear the kriya. So they're all interested parties. So in other words, nobody from that city can either be witnesses or judges in the case because they're all interested parties. They all want the Sefer Torah to stay within the city. Pardon? Yeah, that's what you have to do. But the judges of that city cannot be judges, nor can any witnesses from that city be judges. So the question is, why can't they remove themselves? The answer is they can't remove themselves because they all need the Sefer Torah. Tashma, another case. Homer Tnumar Lebnei Ira. A man says, I'm giving a donation to the people in my city. Ain't done it again. Now, a question came up about, did he pay it? Didn't he pay it? Was it a proper bequeathal or whatever? Well, what did he give the money yet? And the case comes to a court. Ain't done it, but you don't judge it by the people, by the judge of that city. Maybe be a right man show, so you can't bring a proof from them, right? Because they're all Nogea. They all want the money to come into the city, right? Maybe it'll be less taxes for them. Why can't two people remove themselves? Just like you say over here, Reuben can remove himself as a partner by giving his share to Shimon. And be a judgment there. Saying, Sefer Torah. That's also, speaking over there, we said, give $100 to buy a Sefer Torah. So again, the Sefer Torah is going to be everybody's benefit. So everybody in the city is going to have enough from it. So therefore, they're all negei b'davar. Toshma, another similar case. Give $100 to the poor of this city, my city. Ain't done, but then the judges of that city cannot judge because they're negei b'davar. So you can't bring a proof. They also can't testify. People in that city. Doesn't matter. What do you mean? What do you mean? It says if you gave money to the poor people, the judges of that city cannot judge the case. The Tizbra Aniyim Shakli Dayanim Mipsei. If the Aniyim are due to get the money, so why should the judges be recused from this? They can't. They're going to be negei b'davar. Why? What does one have to do with the other? This you say you gave money. If you're giving a Sefer Torah to the city or giving money in general to the city, you say, okay, everybody in the city is an interested party. But here we're giving money to the poor of the city, so why can't the judges judge? The poor judges of that city cannot judge because they're not given because the money is due to them. So you can't bring any witnesses from the poor of that city. Why? Let two of these poor judges remove themselves of it, or two witnesses, and make the judge. He says betray two of them, but if obviously the judges, you meant probably three. The eight of them meant two. So why can't they remove themselves? Again, if you say that you could remove yourself and then you're a disinterested party, and like Rashbam says, you're not worried that it's a ruse, it's a conspiracy. We'll remove ourselves temporarily, to do it afterwards. Why? Apparently you can't remove yourself, and the might must be because you consider it a ruse. Well, how can I say for Torah? Here also we're speaking about Sefer Torah, but what do you mean a Sefer Torah? You said you want to give money to the poor of that city. But my correlate name, so why you call poor people? That correlates to Sefer Torah Aniyim. Everybody can buy the Sefer Torah. Everybody's Aniyim. What does that mean? Rashi says, Rashbam, 6 lines from the bottom of the page. Everybody needs the Sefer Torah. You might have $1 billion in the bank, but if you don't have a Sefer Torah, you can't hear the Kriya. They're poor. It's a great poverty if you don't have a Sefer Torah. So that's what he means by there. And he says, giving aniyim, he really meant for the Sefer Torah. Maybe is giving money to the poor itself. The reason nobody is a good judge, not because it's the poor judges, but simply because everybody in the city is responsible to donate to the kitty, to the what do we call it, the charity box, the kupat staka. Uvaniyim the ramu alayu. So everybody has an interested party. There were times in Jewish history when everybody in the community was assessed a certain amount to support the poor. Everybody had to give $10 a month or whatever it was. So if there's a fixed amount, so let's betray minayu, the kids. Let those people give what they're supposed to give. Let them be judged. They won't be, there's no if it's a fixed amount, so they're not no gevadav, they're not interested parties. Why? Because it doesn't affect them. They gave their amount that they had to give anyway, right? If it's a fixed amount, and let them be judges. Why can't they judge that case? Maybe it's speaking about where there was no fixed amount. In other words, they gave according to the needs. They had an appeal, Pesach and Yom Tov, whatever. They made an appeal according to what they needed. So everybody in the city would like that money to be coming in for the poor people, not for the Sefer Torah. For the poor people, we need more money. So they're not disinterested. Even if there is a fixed amount, they all give $10 a month. But still, they'd rather have more money. You'd rather have a lot of money in the kupa for the Karen Aniyim, whatever it's called, the Karen Chesed. You'd rather have more money there than less, even though everybody has assessed a certain amount. They'd have more money, so everybody there is an interested party. So in those cases, so we say the truth is you could. This is so you say according to Shmuel, we're defending Shmuel here, who said that two partners, if one of them gave up his share to the other one legitimately, he gifted it to him or he sold it to him, whatever, and even if he gave it to him, with a guarantee that if it's taken away from you, you can come after me. He's still a disinterested party. Why? Because, as we said, because he has a outstanding chov of $1,000 from a creditor from before, and even though isn't he interested that it should stay in Shimon's hands rather than somebody else's hands, right? Because if it's in somebody else's hands, Shimon will come after him and the creditor will come after him. He says no, but we're talking about in this sense that he gave a chray. He didn't He didn't guarantee it when he gave it to Shimon or sold it to Shimon. He said to Shimon, "I'll guarantee you if any of my creditors come and take it away from you, I'll pay you. If it's taken away by the government or by some third party that I don't know about, no, I'm not responsible then. But I'm responsible if it's taken away by my creditor." So in that particular case, Reuben is Reuben is impartial, because if it's taken away by his creditor, so he has to pay this guy. He doesn't have any money, so he won't pay this guy. He won't pay Shimon. He doesn't have any other assets. So either his creditor is going to get it or Shimon's going to get it, but he has no reason to favor one more than the other. In that particular case, only in that case is he an impartial witness, and that's what Shmuel meant. Now this is a little bit of a doche, but of course Levi and Shmuel didn't, Shmuel didn't agree with him either, right? He says shut vein lechazaka and kol shkein uman and all that. Shmuel says no, only Shmuel says only an uman, right? Your dry cleaner or your whatever, your washer or your shoemaker, they can't have a chazaka, but shutvan could have a chazaka, and shutvan can even testify against one another, but not if they're still shutvan. If they're still partners in it, obviously I'm interested that it should stay with you, because if they take it away from you, they're taking it away from me too. So we're talking about where he gave up ownership. He had to do it legitimately. He had to give it to me. He just can't say, I have nothing to do with this anymore. That might be just another ruse, and really I own it. He had to give it to him legitimately. And he gave it to him legitimately with a guarantee. And he said, if my creditor takes away from you, I will make it up to you. So isn't he an interested party because he wants it to stay with Shimon, but then he doesn't pay his creditor? So therefore, he has no reason to gain to favor one more than the other.
You just compared all these test cases.
Yeah.
The rabbis.
Yeah.
They don't get a pass. They don't get an assumption of objectivity.
No such thing. That's why judges have to recuse themselves. Yeah, it's very good. That's the whole point of bribing. Okay, Al Capone bribed all the witnesses, the entire jury. He can go after each one of the jury, but here you only have to bribe the judge. And Torah says, be careful, right? A judge who takes money. That's why. In many respects, I don't want to put them down, but in many respects, many Rabbanim, or let's call them, I'm not nobody in particular, but in general, Rabbanim who take money are obviously, interested parties. You can't get a psak from somebody who has an interested party, whether it's a hashgacha or a question about the army or whatever the thing is. If they're getting money from it, right? Yeah, that's the old thing, that all right, so be careful about that. Right. Right. Whenever there's money, especially when there's money involved. Yeah, and that's what we're talking about here also. He says it's really a money issue. It comes down to money. It's not even when you're interested parties, okay, it could be family and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, most of the cases involve some aspect of money. So now we're at the last line on the page. I'm going to give them out. And the third thing that Shmuel said, he said that Shutfim can make a chazak against one another if they do it in a way which shows ownership. As we said yesterday, depends on the case. And as we said now, if Reuben withdraws his partnership, he can testify on behalf of Shimon in the limited case that we described. And they can be shomer sacher for one another, and they are shomer sacher for one another. In other words, what does it mean a shomer sacher? That I guard it, right? If I'm guarding it, I'm a hired hand. I'm responsible for Ganeva and Aveda. So if Reuben and Shimon own some object together, right? And Reuben is guarding it now. He's guarding it now. He's effectively paid by Shimon, right? He's paid by Shimon. How is he paid? Because Shimon's going to guard it tomorrow, right? So he's giving him something for that. And therefore, if it's stolen while in the possession of Reuben's a shomer sacher. He has to pay for it. Remember, shomer sacher is chayiv on pshia and on Ganeva and Aveda. He's only pater on accidents, right? But he's chayiv on Ganeva and Aveda. So he says here, so now the Gemara is assuming that they're both guarding it at the same time. Whatever it was, they were guarding it at the same time. So the Gemara says, Amai, Shmir Babala. Remember when in our Shoel we learned that if you borrow something, you're responsible for accidents. However, if while you borrow this item from Yankel is working for you, that's called Shoel Babalim, he's working for you, you're putter. That's what the pasuk says. In Baal of Imo lo yishalem, right? If the owner's there, you have to pay. And we learn out over there in Ashol that not only is it by a shoel, a borrower, but even by a shomer chinam and a shomer sacher, because it's vav most in Rishon. It says v'chi, v'chi yishal yishmer v'chi. So it applies even to shomer sacher. So therefore, over here, if they're both guarding it at the same time, so it's shmir b'balim. So let's say I'm guarding it, right? I'm guarding we own two things together, and I'm guarding my part, and you're guarding your part. So why do you say that if it's stolen from me, I'm a shomer sacher, I have to pay, but you're working for me at the same time too? Because each of us is working for the other guy. So it's shmir b'balim, it should be part. Said no, it's not where they're both guarding at the same time. So you could say each is in the employ of the other. Each is guarding his half of the partnership, right? Each guy owns half, and each guy is guarding his half. So while I'm guarding my half, I'm guarding your half too. When you guard your half, you're guarding my half. No, we're not talking about they did it simultaneously. We're talking about where the deal was, I'll guard it on Monday and you guard it on Tuesday. So when I guard it on Monday, you're not working for me, but I am working for you. I'm a shomer sacher because you're going to pay me by working tomorrow. So you're going to pay me, but at the time that I'm guarding it, you're not working for me, and therefore it's not at the same time. Okay, so that's why Shmuel says that you're a shomer, that shutfin are guard. So those are the three things that Shmuel said, that shutf can make a chazaka on another while he's a shutf. They can testify on behalf of one another when they're no longer shutfin, when he gold up his shell of a share, and when one guards for the other and the other's not working at that time, he's considered like a shomer sacher. Okay, now we're going to go back to our inyan that we talked about. If I sell you something, right? If I sell you something, can I testify on your behalf that it belongs to you? So we said, Shmuel said you could, but in a very limited case, right? Very limited case where I gave up my partnership to you, and I told you that if my creditor comes and takes it from you, I will testify on your behalf, because I'm not impartial. I am impartial rather, because I have to give it either to my creditor or to you. I'm not guaranteeing it against somebody else, but if I guaranteed it against my own creditor, then in that case I can testify. But we get back to this idea. The main idea that we quoted before, we said was, listen, he's not impartial, he's disinterested, because we said Rabban Shmuel, in the name of Shmuel said, because if I sell it to you and with no guarantee, can I testify that it belongs to you if somebody else claims? Well, not really, because obviously I want it to be in your possession, because I don't want it to be taken away by my creditor. So I want to make it available for my creditor. Again, I sell you a field, and I sell to you without any guarantee. No guarantee. So if they take it away from you, I don't have to pay, right? However, so am I impartial? No. You know why? I'd rather it be in your possession. So if my creditor, who I owe the money to years before I sold it to you, comes and gets it, it'll be available for him to take. When he takes it from you, I don't have to pay you, because I didn't guarantee anything. But I'm not impartial, and therefore I can't testify that it belongs to you. Somebody else comes and claims that it's his. Some third party comes as his, and I testify. Well, let's say another witness knows that belongs to Shimon. I sold it to Shimon. Am I impartial? No, because I want it to be in Shimon's possession. If it's in the possession of some other guy who said that he owned it from 100 years ago, so then my creditor can't go after that property. But if I put it in the hands of Shimon because I sold it to Shimon, then my prior creditor can come and take it away. Therefore, I'm not impartial and I cannot testify. So here we're going to see a similar thing. Tan Rabbanan, Machalo Bayis, Machalo Sada. So the Visitor Bryce says, if I sell you a house or a field, meaning karka, ein meidlo, I can't testify on your behalf. I can't testify because I've guaranteed it, so to speak. We're going to see about this lashon. Tomorrow's Gemara is going to explain it. This is not really so. The lashon isn't exactly right. Machala para machala said about I sold you a talfman, I sold you a cow or a talus. I could testify because I'm not responsible for it anyway. Not responsible for it anyway. Now the lashon is a little bit strange. What do you mean responsibility? The issue is really if somebody else comes to take it away. So the first thing Mara says, what do you mean? What do we mean I can't testify? If I guaranteed it In other words, if I sold you a field with achrayas, then I cannot testify, right? Because obviously I'm an interested party. I want to say it's yours because if it's taken away from you, I have to pay you. But then the same should be matalpin. If I sold you the para or the talis with achrayas and it's taken away from you, if I sold you with achrayas with a guarantee, then also I shouldn't be able to testify because I'll have to make good on it if it's taken away from you. So what's the difference in the reisha and the seifa? Maishna reisha, maishna seifa. Yes, in the reisha we're talking about karka. In the seifa we're talking about matalpin. So he say, if I sold you karka, I cannot testify on your behalf because I'm responsible for it. And if I sold you metalplin, then I could testify on your behalf because I'm not responsible. What's the difference? Did I sell it to you with achrayas? Whatever I sold you, would I sell you the karka with achrayas? And I could have sold you the metalplin with achrayas too. And if I didn't sell you the metalplin with achrayas, I could have sold the karka also with non-achrayas. What difference does it make? Rav Shesha. So we're going to come back to on tomorrow's where we're going to come back to this idea that I'm making it by the karka. I'm making it available to my creditor. My creditor from 10 years ago who lent me $1,000, so I haven't paid back yet. I have an interest in making that karka available to him so I could pay it back. I don't want to be a scoundrel who doesn't pay his loans, doesn't pay his debts back. So I want it to be available there. That's what we're going to talk about. But at this point, we don't know what it means. We say, what's in the ratio and sefer? Rav Shesha. So Rav Shesha says, and this is where you really have to have your caps on. Listen very carefully. Rav Shesha, the ratio speaking about Rav Shesha's ratio. Listen to this case. Reuven, forget about Reuven and Shimon partners. We're not talking about partners now. We're talking about selling. Reuven Shagosel son of Shimon. Listen carefully. Reuven stole the field from Shimon. Now we use the word stolen loosely because you really can't steal karka. Even if there's yish and shina b'shus, you sell it. You can't steal it. Karka's always there. Yish and shina b'shus only works on metalpin, not on karka. Okay, so what happened here? Reuven stole the field from Shimon, and he sold it to Levi. Get their partners. Reuben's the Ganav. He stole the field from Shimon. And Reuben sold it to Levi. But also Yehuda bekama'arer. And Yehuda is the claimant. Yehuda comes now. He comes out of the blue. And he says, what's going on over here? This field is mine. Well, who are you people? This field belongs to me. Now, the way we have the story, who does it belong to? Shimon, right? Reuben stole it from Shimon and sold it to Levi. So we're saying over here, you know what it means? Ein me'idin lo means the low. This is a difficult, case to see. How do you see that in the words of the Tanur Rabbanan Machalo Bayis Machalo Sada Ein me'idin lo? Shimon cannot go. Listen to him. Shimon, who we assume is the original owner that Reuben stole from. Lo lezel Shimon la'asad Levi. Shimon cannot go to testify that it belongs to Levi. Now, does Shimon really think it belongs to Levi? No, Reuben stole it from Shimon, and Reuben sold it to Levi. So you say over here, you know what? Shimon cannot go and testify that it belongs to Levi. Then Nechale, he would rather it be in the hands of Levi. We'll see why. Right? He'd rather be in the hands of Levi. In other words, who's contesting the ownership of this field now? Reuben stole it, right? They know he stole it. Levi bought it from Reuben. So Levi, huh? What did I say?
Reuben stole it
from Shimon and sold it to Levi. Who's contesting it now? Yehuda's contesting it. And who should contest it? Shimon, because it was taken from him, right? So Shimon and Yehuda are contesting it. But now we're saying that Shimon is not allowed to go and testify on Levi's behalf. Even if it belongs to Levi. Why would he do that? We'll see why in a few minutes. Why would he do that? He'd rather it be right. He can't prove that it's his. He can't prove that it's his. He can prove maybe that Reuben took it from him. The Nechle, the Hadar, he'd rather the Hadar, the year says the Hadar lay. Says the Gemara, but keep nasa the Levi, hechi motzim apiklimine. I understand. He said that's the Tanur Rabbanan. He can't testify on him. He can't testify, meaning that Shimon cannot testify that it belongs to Levi, even though he'd rather it be in Levi's hands than in Yehuda's hands. We'll see. It's easier for him to get it from Levi than from Yehuda. But he can't testify that it belongs to Levi. He shouldn't do that. So Gemara, why would he do that anyway? Once he testifies that it belongs to Levi, how could he then go and take it back from Levi? He testified in court, right, that it belongs to Levi because Levi bought it from Reuben. How can he testify and then come back after and say no, that it doesn't belong to him? The Amar, because he's like this. The Amar Yadana, the Ayar Alav Dihudi. He doesn't testify it belongs to Levi. He's testifying against Yehuda. He's testifying against Yehuda. Remember, Yehuda is the claimant. He says it belongs to him. Can Shimon go and say that it doesn't belong to Yehuda? No, he can't do that. That's what we're saying. He can't do that. Okay, so what? So Vahus Chusav the Kamapik Leimi Levi Lifkam Yehuda. I understand what's the problem over here. Why does he say I know it doesn't belong to Yehuda? Well, in the same argument that says that he wants to take it to the Kamapik Leimi Levi because Levi only bought it from Reuven, who stole it. So certainly Levi has no claim. Vahus Chusav the same argument that he says the topic that he's going to take it from Levi, let him take it away from Yehuda, right? To Amar. The answer is the Amar Asheni Noachli Arishin Kashay Menu. The answer is he's saying, you know what? It's easier for me to get it from Levi than from Yehuda. Yehuda is a tough guy. Yehuda is a very tough guy. So Yehuda, he won't be able to get it from. He's afraid he won't be able to get it from Yehuda. So he says, I'll get it from Levi, right? So that's why he's doing it. And it's the same argument that he's going to use that I can take it away from Levi, let him take it away from Yehuda. The answer is not so easy to get away from Yehuda. Yehuda's a tough guy. Or Yiboy Sema could go into Islay Sadi Lamar, Islay Sadi Lamar. In other words, Shimon, who are the real owners? We know Levi's not the real owner. He bought it from Reuven. And we know Reuven stole it from Shimon. So Reuven and Levi are really not the owners at all. The real claims over here are Shimon and Yehuda, right? Who claim it. But it could very well be that Shimon and Yehuda have equal proof. They each have 2 items that it belongs to them. Viva could go into Islay Sadi Lamar, Islay Sadi Lamar. They both have witnesses. Where we had before, if everything else is equal, 2 people say that they own it and 2 people say they own it. Called Olam Kvar. Bezin doesn't know what to do. Bezin can't reconcile who it really belongs to. So you leave it the way it is. So therefore, Shimon over here, who knows that it doesn't belong to Levi and knows it doesn't belong to Reuben, and also feels that it doesn't belong to Yehuda, would want to testify that it doesn't belong to Yehuda. He's not saying it belongs to Levi. If it belongs to Levi, how can he say it's not Levi? It's afterwards. But he says it doesn't belong to Yehuda. He can't do. So why doesn't he just say the way he says it doesn't belong to Levi? Because Reuben stole it. Why can't he say it doesn't belong to Yehuda? Because the answer is that he has no better proof than Yehuda does. So we're afraid they both have proof. And then Bezin will say, leave it where it is and leave it with Yehuda. So therefore, Shimon has an interest in saying it doesn't belong to Yehuda, in testifying that it doesn't belong to Yehuda. Why? Because if he gets it out of Yehuda's hands, he won't be able to fight against Yehuda in court, right? The real owners are either Shimon or Yehuda, right? But he won't be able to beat him in court. And if Yehuda grabs it, maybe he'll be able to keep it. So therefore, going this way, side of Lamar, this is side of Lamar, Amrabanan, Arech the kind and take them. So therefore, we say that's the case. Tan Rabbanan, we said before, Machal Abayis, Machal Osada, Ain Meyadlo, right? He can't make, meaning Reuven sold this stolen field of Shimon to Levi. Shimon cannot testify on behalf of Levi to take it away from Yehuda. Why? Because he's an interested party, because he won't be able to beat him in court. So over here, he's an interested party, and therefore he can't testify. And Rashbam says over here that if he says it belongs to Levi, his motive belongs to Levi. So therefore, he's motive to that. So therefore, right, let him testify. Makshin Bakati Amai Rashi Rashbam 4 lines into the wide lines. My law keeping the asa the Levi, since he's going to say that it belongs to Levi. But Akati Amai Ein Melo, keeping the asa the Levi, he won't be able. In other words, the question is, if he belongs to Levi, he's not going to be able to get it back from Levi. So he's still a disinterested party. He says it's not. So why do you say? And the answer is that he is an interested party. He'd rather be in the hands of Levi than in Yehuda, because Yehuda's a tough guy. He won't be able to get it from him, right? So therefore, he's an interested party. He has an interest in testifying it belongs to Levi, or an interest in saying that it doesn't belong to Yehuda because he can't fight against Yehuda because it's going to be 2 against 2, and Bezin will leave it wherever it stands. So now tomorrow's Gemara is going to go on to say, okay, let's look at this case again before we leave you. What was the case? Reuven stole a field from Shimon and sold it to Levi. And now Yehuda's claiming it. So we say here, you know what? Shimon cannot testify that it belongs to Levi or that it doesn't belong to Yehuda. Why? He'd rather stay in Levi's hands than in Yehuda's hand because he's interested. Why? Because he can get it out of Levi easier than Yehuda. He can't say it belongs to Levi, but he can say it doesn't belong to Yehuda, which means it'll stay with Levi. He'd rather testify that because he won't be able to beat Yehuda in court, right? That's what we're saying. So he has an interested party there. But the question Moore is going to say, so why do you talk about a case of a Gazlan, right? We're looking at a Gazlan. Why do you have to say that we're talking about that he sold it to Levi? Who needs Levi over here? Why don't you just say Reuben stole the field from Shimon, right? And Yehuda now claims that it's his, right? Can Shimon testify that it belongs to Reuben because he can get it from Reuben easier than getting it from Yehuda? Why do you need this extra case of the Levi? What do you need Levi in there for? If you're talking about a case, we're trying to say that Shimon cannot testify against one or on behalf of another, cannot testify. Why? Because he's no Gabadov, because he's an interested party. What do you need Levi for? What do we need 4 people over here? It's enough just 3 people. Reuben stole it from Shimon, and now Yehuda claims it. And can Shimon testify on behalf of Reuben or against Yehuda? What do you need that for? That's what Gemara says. Look at Gazlan. So he says, because of the Seifa, you won't be able to say it's a Gazlan, because if you won't be able to say just with a Gazlan. Why? Because then when he you need the case of selling, because the Seifa said that he could testify against him. Why could he testify? Because once he sold in the Seifa where it wasn't a field, it was a para or a talis, when he sold it to a third party, there's Yish and Shini Rishus. So therefore the third party owns it now. Levi owns it now, and that's why he could testify, because he's not an interested party anymore, because he's not trying to set it to take it back to himself, because it's too late anyway. It belongs to the third party. So since in the Sefer we're talking about there was a sale to Levi, here also in the ratio we're talking about there was a sale to Levi. We'll continue with this tomorrow as we get into tomorrow's daf. Keep the same thinking caps on tomorrow. Not simple. Have a good day. Kol tov.